Tom Dundon, the major investor in the league, about the future of the league. Are you at all worried that the season's not going to finish out?
I am worried about this year. Now, this year's going to finish. We're 100%, I think, on that. And I don't think he really meant what he said from what everybody else has said. This alliance was originally started for players that are not in the NFL. It started for guys that don't have a job that maybe can play well enough to get a shot at there. So I'm going under that pretense. And really, we're all just worried about finishing this year, and then we'll look around and see where we're at. But I think it's a very good concept, and we need to get a few more people involved and support and go from there.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Mike Floyd here with the Turf Toe Show, bringing you a recap of Week 8 of the Lions of American Football. If you like this video, hit like, share, subscribe, and let's get into the video. Now, before I get into it, I just want to talk about the whole Tom Dundon thing, talking about how he might fold the league if the NFL Players Association doesn't come agree to a plan that they had. Essentially, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's all over Twitter, it's all over the news. As soon as bad news comes about the Lions, everybody wants to jump on it. Essentially, Tom Dundon did an interview with USA Today stating how if the NFL Players Association or the NFLPA doesn't agree to certain terms of a deal that they're trying to work on, he may have to pretty much fold the league up. Essentially what he was doing was hyperbole. He's pretty much doing what me and you would do if we go into a dealership to if we're trying to buy a car and they're not giving us the terms that we like, we're like, oh, we'll just take our business elsewhere. We'll take our ball and go home. That's all he was doing. But as you know, everybody jumped on it. They're like, oh, the league's not even going to have games this weekend. They're not even going to play and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, my guy, I'm pretty sure they got enough cash to go the whole season. We've already been through this before. It's just another billionaire who just wants to get his way, and it's just something's not happening fast enough. And that's exactly what's happening. Bill Polian, who's the other owner of the league, he's the guy behind the scenes doing all the network deals and all this other stuff. He was trying to strike a deal with the NFLPA in a 3-year span. They want to show him hey, this is a good product for the young guys on the practice squads to come down and actually play with us so they can actually get up to NFL standards so they can get out the practice squad and actually get on the starting roster. They were trying to negotiate a little deal with that because actually the contract will be up in 3 years, which makes sense. Well, when Tom Dundon invested all this money into the league, I guess he was under the impression that it should happen now. Screw waiting, screw actual negotiations. Y'all need to go ahead and do it. So by putting people on blast, he figured by putting people on blast in the public eye, force the NFLPA to actually respond. Well, the NFLPA doesn't have to respond for nothing. The Lions of American Football actually needs the players, not the other way around. You know what I'm saying? So essentially, the thing is, the league is all right, man. It's so crazy to me. I was just scrolling through YouTube because I saw the news break before I went to work, and I was like, you know what? Let me wait, see what actually happens with this, see where this is going. And then I just see all these videos just pop up. Oh, well, the league is folding again and blah, blah. They not even have games this weekend. Well, I hate to disappoint you guys, but there's games still happening. There's still gonna be a championship game in Frisco. It's gonna happen. And by the time this video airs, I would have bought my championship tickets to the game. So I'm Gucci. So let's go ahead and get into the actual games that happened this weekend. So the first game up was the Apollos playing the Memphis Express. It was a rematch game. And this is the second week with Johnny Manziel playing for the Memphis Express. He was, they were going to put him in the same role like he was the week before and kind of work him into certain packages and try to keep the Apollos defense, on their toes. And it was kind of working. He actually managed to do a drive all the way to the end zone, ended up throwing an interception in the end zone. And he actually ended up getting hurt in the play, not by a defensive player, but he went down to make the tackle and he got hit in the head by his own lineman. What I think was his left leg or something like that, got hit Johnny in the head. Hate to see that happen to any player. It sucks to see somebody who's been, regardless of how you feel about him personally, he has been grinding to get back into the league. We'll get back into football, professional football. And I just hate to see anybody go down with a head injury. I've had several concussions before. I know how that feels. It sucks. So I do feel bad for the guy, and I hope he does recover pretty quickly. Since the Memphis Express lost this game 34-31 to the Orlando Apollos, their playoff chances are pretty much they're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs right now. So essentially, they got 2 more games left because this was week 8. If I was Coach Singletary, I would see what you got. I don't think anybody on this particular team besides Zach Stacy is going to get called up. So I would just see what kind of packages we could throw out there and just start playing around with some stuff. For the second week in a row, Brandon Silvers is showing why he deserves a starting spot at this moment. He went 30 for 49, 269 yards. He had 1 TD and 1 interception. That 1 interception came at the very end of the game. It was like a minute left in the game. And it's just sealed the way they were trying to, the Apollos that ended up taking a lead back in the late fourth on a crazy call, which Singletary went ballistic. They pretty much, the Apollos were, driving down the field. They were within the 20-yard line, and then they didn't get the play off in time. Like, the play clock had already expired, but the refs still let him play it. And Singletary literally ran on the field, just like screaming at the refs, like, yo, like the time's expired. Ended up getting a unsportsmanlike conduct call on him. Then they got another unsportsmanlike conduct on the assistant coach, and Singletary was just irate. I mean, they were just bad calls all game from these refs. There was like an interception call that got called back by the sky judge for the Express. There was there's a lineman jumping off sides on the Express side. There was a lineman jumping off the sides every time. It was just seemed like he was real early, but according when Steve Spurrier asked the line judge, like, hey, what's going on? She said, like, hey, he's moving the exact same time the ball's moving. He's just moving faster than the ball's coming back. So Steve Spurrier let it go, but I was noticing that all game, like, hey, this dude's jumping off real early. So it was just, it turned into ref ball, essentially. I mean, Garrett Gilbert, he went 22 of 40, 310 yards, 2 TDs, 2 interceptions. Devion Smith for the Landos for the rushing. He had 10 carries, 27 yards. Akeem Hunt was bouncing around. I mean, he's the third running back on the roster. He had 4 carries for 21 yards. For the Memphis Express, Terrence McGee had 9 carries, 39 yards with a TD. And Johnny Manziel did Johnny Manziel type things before he went down. He had 3 carries for 18 yards. I mean, it was a pretty good game. I mean, it was a defensive game. I personally am a huge defensive type of guy. I just like seeing defensive battles. I don't like seeing high scoring like basketball scores in a football game, because it just shows me like you just destroyed that defense. And if both defenses are trash, it's no fun to me. So I'd rather see scores within the teens to the 20s. Like, I can deal with that. When they're real super low, then I know it's like either just a really crappy offense or just amazing defenses. In this case, it was just both sides were actually playing pretty good. And with the little ref ball mixed in, it sucks because, one, the Express needed to win this game in order to stay in the hunt for the playoffs. By them losing this game, they were eliminated. And now all they're going to be saying, like, hey, we had a shot, the ref screwed us. For the Apollos, they won the game, but now everybody's going to be looking at it like, did you really win the game, or did the refs win you the game? So I slick feel bad for them, but I mean, they did what they had to do to secure that spot for the Eastern Conference. They are the Eastern, like they secure their spot for the playoffs. I mean, they're the first ones in, they got it. It's just little things like they just got to work on. I mean, especially for the Apollos. I mean, when Garrett Gilbert was up there changing the call of the line multiple times, and they're getting delay of games on back-to-back occasions because he's trying to switch from a pass play to a run play because the defense is showing like they're got eight in coverage. Dude, I mean, y'all gotta be quicker with it. Like, the play clock is moving faster. I mean, the old lineman should be kind of prepared for that, because he does it every single game. He's just switching to a run play as soon as he sees 8 guys out there in coverage. And it's just like, dude, y'all just be prepared for it every single time. So that's something they're going to shore up, because that can really mess them up once they hit the playoffs or in the championship game. Because at this rate, I don't see anybody in the East stopping them. I mean, I just don't see it. From the Memphis side, I mean, like I said, they're already eliminated for the playoffs, so I would just shut it down and, see what you got out there. Just start putting players that are sitting on the bench, start seeing what you got, and just start preparing for next year. Now, the second game had some other playoff implications for the Western Conference, with San Diego Fleet playing for the Salt Lake Stallions. So far, at the time of this game, nobody has secured a playoff spot in the Western Division. Salt Lake Stallions, I've been on that bandwagon, even though they've been losing. I've been on that bandwagon saying, like, hey, they are a dark horse, pun intended, in this playoff race. And they ended up winning this game 8-3. This game was like the interception turnover bowl. Like, every time I looked at the screen, there was another turnover, another interception, another fumble. It was just ridiculous how many mental miscues that each offense had. It was crazy. So for San Diego Fleet, Mark Berkovici went 22 of 47, 210 yards and 2 interceptions. Josh Woodrum for the Stallions had 21-32, 155 yards, 2 interceptions, 0 TDs. It was just, man, every time Demontres Moore for the San Diego Fleet, that dude is a monster. That dude is a wrecking ball. He's kind of unrefined right now, but if he can get in the right defensive scheme, Oh my God, I would want him in on. Man, if Baltimore can pick him up tomorrow, man, I would love that. Dude, that guy is a monster. For the rushing side, Bishop Sankey was the main rusher for the San Diego Fleet. He had 11 carries for 42 yards. With Salt Lake Stallions, Teron Ward had 18 carries for 47 yards. Joe Bonio, 15 carries, 45 yards, and 1 TD. And then, like I said, it was just interceptions and fumbles all over the place. Pass deflections. It was just mental miscues by these quarterbacks left and right. I mean, when it got to a point where Woodrum was just throwing the ball just completely out of bounds because he knew he was going to throw another interception. If it wasn't for the first 2 interceptions in the first half, I mean, I think he would have kept going. But it just got to a point where he was just like, nah, I'm good, fam. This is a wrap. So pretty much both coaches said, hey, we're just going to let our defense go win us these games. That's essentially what happened. The Salt Lake Stallions didn't win this game. I don't have much to really say about this one game because, to be honest with you, even though I just got done saying I do like defensive battles, this game was pretty boring. But for the defense, though, for the San Diego Fleet, I mean, looking at my notes, Ryan Mahler, he had 2 interceptions. He had 2 pass deflections. He also had 1 fumble. He forced 1 fumble. For the defense, for the Salt Lake Stallions, Will Davis, he had 3 pass deflections, 1 fumble recovery. Silver Silga had a forced fumble. And then Steve Williams had 1 interception. So I do like both of these defenses. It's looking like the Western conferences for the Alliance of American Football, they're all about that defense. They got offense mixed out there. And then it's looking like for the Eastern Conference, it's besides the Birmingham Iron, they're all about the offense. They're high-flying, slinging offense. So that's pretty much all I want to say about this game. I mean, it was a real low-scoring game. Like I said, 8-3. I mean, pretty decent. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen for the next 2 weeks between everybody in the Western Conference. Who's going to get that final Western Conference spot? So the third game this weekend was the Atlanta Legends playing the Birmingham Iron down there in Birmingham. This game had a lot of playoff implications as well because the game prior to this, the Memphis Express game, Memphis had got mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. So technically, Atlanta still had a chance to make the playoffs if they would have won today and then won the rest of the way out, and Birmingham would have fell off. Well, that didn't happen. Birmingham ended up winning 17-9. So now they clinched the Birmingham Iron now clinched the second spot in the Eastern Conference, so the number 2 behind Orlando Apollos, who are number 1. We actually had 2 quarterback changes in this game. For Atlanta, they started out with Matt Sims. They gave him the starting job again. He went 13-22, 135 yards, 1 interception. They brought in Aaron Murray after the half, who went 6-13 with 1 interception. For the Birmingham Iron, Luis Perez got the start. He went 10-24. He had 65 yards and no TDs or interceptions. They actually ended up benching him to bring Keith Price, who went 2 of 2, 31 yards. He actually made more movement with his feet. He actually had 7 carries with 5 yards. He was actually getting all the first downs and stuff. But there was no offensive movement at all. It was pretty much coming down to the special teams because the Atlanta Legends, I don't know who their punt return man was for those first 3 punts that he just straight up fumbled. The first 2 that he fumbled, the Atlanta Legends ended up getting back. The second one, the third one he fumbled, the Iron damn near took it in for a touchdown. So they ended up replacing him, putting somebody else back there. But dude, that's not a good look, man. If you're trying to get back to the NFL, you muffin punts, and it was clean fumbles too, straight up clean ones. So this game, besides the special teams just rocking out, I mean, Younghoe Koo, he got all the points for the Atlanta Legends. I mean, he was 3 of 3. He's perfect for the season. Nick Novak went 3 of 3 as well. He had 9 points. It just mainly came down to the special teams, man. I mean, there's nothing really much more to say about this game. I mean, it was a basic Birmingham Iron, no offense movement, just straight up defensive. The defense of the game. The Atlanta Legends defense showed up. They did their thing. Trent Richardson for Birmingham Iron, he went 18 carries, 83 yards, 1 TD. Is normal within the 5-yard line TD. And then for the Atlanta Legends, Brandon Radcliffe had 6 carries for 30 yards. And receiving wise, nobody really stands out. I mean, Justin Thomas for the Atlanta Legends, he had 4 receptions for 74 yards. But I've noticed this one thing with the Birmingham Iron is if they're on their side of the field within the 30-yard line, they're not going to make it. That's all you got to do. If you can pin them within the 30-yard line, back toward the end zone on their side of the football field, it's a wrap. They're going to end up punting the ball every single time. They don't make any movement unless they can get over the 50-yard line. It's like that every single game. So they got to go up against the Orlando Apollos for the Eastern Championship. I don't see how they can beat the Orlando Apollos. I honestly don't. The Apollos offense, if they're on, they're on. It's going to be, the defense might be able to step up, but they cannot generate any type of offense that's going to be able to keep up with that Apollos offense. I mean, I don't see it. I legitimately don't see it. So I'm saying this 2 weeks out. I mean, unless they bring in another quarterback magically out of somewhere for the Birmingham Iron, the Orlando Apollos are going to go to the championship game. That's going to be a wrap for them. But besides that, I mean, Atlanta's, they're eliminated for the playoffs, so they just got 2 more games left for the season. If I was them, I would just let Kim Stampese just start running some crazy stuff and see what they could come up with. But it's a wrap for the white and purple, or purple and gold, or whatever colors they got out there. I do like them uniforms though. Icy whites, they are nice. All right, so the last game this weekend were the Arizona Hotshots playing the San Antonio Commanders out there in San Antonio in the Alamo Dome. The San Antonio Commanders had one job to do. All they had to do was win the game, and they would have locked in their playoff spot. Well, they decided that was too easy, and they didn't want to do that, so they lost. Arizona Hotshots beat them 23-6. Just completely flipped the script on it from the game prior to that when they played out there in Arizona. San Antonio just looked dismal. Like, I've been preaching since week 1 that Area 51, their secondary, is super suspect to deep passes. And that's exactly what they did. John Ross was torching these dudes left and right with the stop and goes. Not even stop and goes, he was just burning the cornerbacks down the field. I mean, it got out of hand real fast. For the Arizona Hotshots, John Wolford went 17-23, 216 yards, 1 TD. Logan Woodside started the game for the San Antonio Commanders. He went 4 of 9 for 32 yards and threw an interception. Got pulled for Marquise Williams, who went 17-23 for 130 yards, 0 TDs, 0 interceptions. When Williams came into the game, it kind of changed. They actually started making some movement because the defense now had to be like, okay, is he going to take off on us? Is he actually going to pass it? I could have told you he's going to take off on you. And he only throws to the right-hand side of the field majority of the time. So I would just overload the box on the right hand and make him force him to throw to his left. That's what I would do, personally. John Stockton for the Arizona Hotshots rushing. He had 4 carries for 34 yards. David Cobb was the main rusher for the San Antonio Commanders with 9 carries at 59 yards. And receiving-wise, my boy Rashad Ross, 4 receptions, 78 yards, and 1 TD. Dude is just, he didn't look like I know last week I was talking about how every time he goes down to the ground, he always ends up holding his shoulder like he was hurt real bad. And luckily he's back for the Hotshots. So I don't know. Well, he wasn't really hit this game. So it didn't really matter because Commanders didn't have any answer for him. Greg Ward for the Commanders, by the way, had 5 receptions, 48 yards. Evan Rodriguez, that big tight end out there, 4 receptions for 35 yards. He's getting more into the offense to utilize him a little bit more. I'm telling you, they are, to me, I am a Commanders fan. As you can see by the banner behind me. They are essentially what the Birmingham Iron are for the West if they had a slightly better offense, if that makes any sense. So their defense is good except for the secondary. Let me rephrase that. The defense is good if everything's in front of them. Once the receivers get behind them, it's a wrap. Their catch-up speed is just, they're not fast enough to catch up to these guys. If they're playing short yardage on the field, they can stop it all day long. But as soon as they have to stretch that field, and they can get torched completely. So the Hotshots went ahead and took this. I think they moved neck and neck with the San Antonio Commanders. They're fighting for that first spot. So essentially, unless something crazy happens next week, this is going to be our 1-2 teams, and they're going to be vying for that, home field advantage. So as of right now, for the standings for the Western Conference, Arizona Hotshots are on top with a record of 5-3. They also have a conference record 3-2, which is the exact same that the San Antonio Commanders has, which is 5-3, overall record, and a conference record of 3-2. The reason why the Hotshots are above because they got the most recent win against the Commanders. So unless the Fleet can, bounce back next week, or my boys the Stallions can start making some moves in these next 2 games, we're kind of seeing where it's going to go. So pretty much these 2 guys are going to be battling for, home field advantage. So next week, Memphis is coming into San Antonio, and let's see, the Arizona Hotshots got to play Birmingham Iron. So honestly, I honestly think Arizona can beat Birmingham Iron. The Memphis, depending on which quarterback shows up for them, I mean, they've been scoring a lot of points. So if they can have the same defensive game plan that Arizona played against the San Antonio this week, they can actually beat them. And then the week after that, San Antonio has to play the Salt Lake Stallions in Salt Lake, and Arizona has to play San Diego. So it could come down to these next 2 weeks to see who can beat who. I mean, I love how it hasn't been set in stone yet. It's cool to see how the Eastern Conference has kind of been solidified now. We kind of knew the Orlando Apollos were going to make it, and then the way the Birmingham Iron just kind of jumped out in front. But having so much, the Western Conference being the way it is, just like it is in the NBA, kind of. I mean, you kind of have you got Golden State, then you have everybody else, but technically anybody can beat anybody at one time. So I super dig the way the Western Conference is shaping up for the Lions of American football. The only thing I really want to touch on besides the games is just something I mentioned earlier. It's just the refereeing. They got to get better with these refs. I mean, having that sky judge was supposed to take care of a lot of these problems with, blown calls and all this other stuff. So either they might have to put a second sky judge up there just in case the other one's not paying attention to one particular play. But I mean, if you're looking from a top-down view, you should be able to see pretty much more of the field than the guy actually standing on the field. So they got to work on that in the offseason. But besides that, I mean, there was some good games this weekend. So I'm super excited for these next 2 weeks and for the not championship, but the playoffs to kick off in 3 weeks. So I'm getting pumped. Like, we're getting there for that championship game. And like I said, I'm gonna be there at that championship game. So that's gonna wrap it up for the Week 8 recap of the Alliance of American Football. If you like this video, hit like, share, subscribe, and stick with us. We got 2 more weeks in the playoffs coming up. So we'll see you next video.